The English Channel. The last successful invasion of the British Isles took place 950 years ago. Since then, the British, in recent times with the help of their American cousins, have repelled all invaders, crossed the seas and fought wars on continental Europe to, in Churchill's words, defend our island. Today, however, those who cross the Channel to our island are welcome visitors, be they Americans, Germans, Belgians, Greeks, Chinese, Russians, indeed any nationality. Every September, military enthusiasts from all over the world invade us at our invitation and congregate near the legendary White Cliffs at Folkestone to attend the world's greatest military modelling event, Militaire. The 2006 event was the 20th such, and it was, not surprisingly, the biggest. The history of Militaire is fascinating, and today it's organised and promoted by Military Modelling magazine, part of the Encanter Media Group. The magazine's editor, Ken Jones, sets the scene.
The Militaire is world famous. It's an international competition. It's now in its 21st year at this venue, which is the Lees Cliff Hall in Folkestone. We're now on the decking outside of the competition room because it's too crowded inside to film. So it's a very hectic show. It's just getting underway in the first morning with modellers bringing their models. We have people from the Far East, Japan, Korea. We have Canadians, we have Americans, we have most of the European countries, and even the odd Russian has appeared with some painted figures. The standard here is very high. Modellers come to the show to vie for gold, silver or bronze, or the very coveted Best of Show medal. And the standard, as I say, is high, and the competition is keen. It's not easy if you're just starting, but it's a gold standard, a silver standard, a bronze standard. Some people have been known to turn up for the first time and go away with an award. Others don't get anything, but that's the luck of the draw. We don't have any favourite classes except for juniors. Juniors don't pay, we're encouraging them, they enter and they get a free entry, and it's to encourage them to come out and make more models. Basically, most of them are interested in fantasy, so this year we've introduced a fantasy class, a very new class, and funnily enough, our judges, one or two of our judges, have suggested this, so we've come up with a fantasy class. I think spurred on by things like Lord of the Rings, which you'll see up there, and some of the movies where you get a lot of computer-generated imagery. But you have to come and see the thing for yourself, and the new class is doing very well so far. Usually our best subscribed class is the figure class, but that one is down this year, which is surprising because this is the lifeblood of the figure hobby, a single 54mm figure that you buy, either cast in resin or in white metal, that you paint. And there's some beautiful pieces of work in there, but not so many this year. The onus seems to be on, let's build a diorama, let's get a scenic setting, let's put some vehicles on it, some walls, some men, and a diorama tells a story, and some of them are very, very good. very, very big too. This is causing problems with the space.
There were no space problems for the largest exhibits at the show. The promenade above the Leascliffe Hall proved to be an ideal showground for this large-scale model of a mid-production Tiger I tank as used on the Russian front. Costing around £3,500 to £4,000, the model is produced by Armatech of Honiton in Devon. Each variant is produced in a limited run, and some 300 plus models have been sold so far. This one had been enhanced by the addition of animatronic crew members. Its owner works in the film industry, although the sound and smoke effects are production options. The model is built to 1/6 scale and uses the same metals as the prototype. It's about the nearest to the real thing you'll find. Access to the show halls is down a flight of stairs. Leascliffe Hall is literally built into the cliffs, the entrance lobby giving way to a foyer bar on the first below ground floor, where visitors could get their first views of one of the most important parts of any show, the retail stands. Every inch of space was taken up this year, and many traders were using this international show to release new products and to meet and reach new and existing customers from across the globe. The visitors covered all parts of humanity. Military modellers spanned the generations and the sexes. A screen showed the main hall, another floor below the foyer, on which the main stage is set. Master of Ceremonies was Richard Windrow, one of the organisers of the show and the anchorman of our expert modelcraft programmes.
They are collecting for the breast cancer charity. You'll see the stand tastefully decorated with pink balloons, and I'm sure they appreciate your visiting them. They've got various items for sale to raise money for this very worthwhile cause. Thank you.
Alongside Richard on the stage was a first-time visitor to the show and Europe. This was Dragon Models of Hong Kong's travelling DX06 exhibition. This company, which has been in business for about as long as Militaire has been in existence, is well known for its limited edition models based on real-life military figures, Militaire 2006 being chosen for the launch of a series featuring turret gunner Douglas Kay of the British Army. Customers queued from the opening of the doors to meet Mr. Kay and to have him autograph the boxes and photographs of the Sherman Firefly Type 5C in which he served in the last World War. The series consisted of two 172nd models, a kit and a ready-built model, a 135th kit, and a 1/6th figurine of Douglas himself, when he was a little bit younger. The popularity of these models can be gauged by the fact that they were being offered on eBay within a week of the show at a hefty premium.
And to come here and to meet somebody, you know, from an army.
Where actually do you come from?
I come from Lincoln. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay then.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Mr. Kay described his war medals.
1939 45 Star, France and Germany with the bar for D-Day, Defence Medal, Victory Medal and the French Legion d'Honneur.
This main hall with a balcony around it at the level of the foyer bar was the main focus for traders. Most visitors made these their first port of call to secure limited stocks of new items and rare treasures, as well as meeting colleagues and rivals from overseas. Traders' stands are as much about social contact in a hobby where enthusiasts often have little chance to meet their fellows in a worldwide movement. Traders have reported that they had a very good show this year and were generally satisfied that the hobby is in good shape. Most are smaller businesses catering to niche and specialist segments of the market, and it was a notable event that Dragon had taken space this year, the first major international manufacturer to do so. This is often the first time that hobbyists have had a chance to speak to traders, and the opportunity is often taken to lobby for products which are a personal want. The publishers also have an opportunity to gauge what the public want in future book lists, Osprey having a very prominent stand on which to display a very lively new list.
Oh yeah, Mickey Menace, yeah.
Yet further down the cliff is the competition room, where the real heart of the hobby was on display. Brilliantly lit through its sea view windows, this is where the real purpose of Militaire takes place. Who better to describe it than Geoffrey Ilsley, the chief judge?
Could I explain that at Militaire we have class categories. We do not have any differentiation between beginners and masters and intermediary. It is all an open competition for everyone. In other words, you could say it is a total master category. But that does not stop people who are coming on and who fancy their chances from knocking the top down off his perch by producing on the day an absolutely wonderful piece, because all of the models are assessed and compared one to another within the category, and the best shall win. And the best are usually easily seen. They jump out at you. Each model is individually assessed. It makes no difference whereabouts on the shelf that they're placed. Each model will be scrutinized in detail by the teams of judges. The judges have no maximum or minimum medals that they may award. It is entirely in their discretion, and they have an international knowledge of the quality found around the world, and they award medals here which are rated usually by most modelers as the blue ribbon. If you get a gold medal at Militaire, you have really arrived. And we try to maintain the value of that currency, so we don't give them away like sweets. Yes, we've been accused sometimes of being elitist, but there's nothing wrong with being elitist when people want to be recognized as within the elite. It's part of the fun, and we try to make sure that this is at least one show where we still maintain high standards. Most people here often come and say, well, I've never seen quality like this. I mean, year on year it seems to get better and better. Well, I hope that perhaps the husbandry of the quality of Militaire judging has had its result. If it's resulted in a show which is at least one of them to come to in Europe, if not in the world, well then I feel I've done my part. Going on to the category system is quite different to the American system. The American system has displays created by individual artists, and teams of judges pick the piece that they like most from that display, and then they all come back and award it points. Here it's much more of a comparative exercise. The competitors' names are not known to the judges. The names are secret, and quite rightly so, because it is the piece of work that we're concentrating on, not who happened to be the maker of it. The reward comes to him later on. From our point of view, we try to refine and winnow out from all of the entries the best quality that we can locate. In the case of the figure classes, where they are literally sometimes as numerous as a football crowd, we actually get separate tables during the judging, and we physically we move them, and we refine them into different groups of a certain quality, and we refine and refine and refine until we come to the absolute, the really masterworks, which by any standard must qualify for a gold. But that's how we do it. We actually do comparisons as far as comparison is achievable. If it's possible, we do it. It's more difficult, of course, with the AFVs because they're so much bigger, but they're not as numerous, and the AFV judges really do know what they're looking for. They are all of them international gold medal winners, and that's incidentally a policy that we've tried to bring to Militaire. All of the judges are top people in their field. Certainly most of them are international gold medal winners, or they know the international standards. That sometimes makes it hard, I know, for a lot of the punters to know who they are or to feel that their work is being looked at by someone who does know. But that is one of the reasons that we have the judges' displays, so that people who are attending the show can actually look to see what the judges themselves produce and can know that they're at least being judged by their peers. It's a system which seems to have caught on with a lot of other shows. I like to think it was us that started it, but that would be a bit self-congratulatory. It certainly seems to work. It cuts down the kind of grumpy grumps, the people that know what they know about it. Well, put that to an end once and for all. If you speak to a judge and you what do you know about it, he can usually take you to the cabinet and he can show you what he's talking about. Most of the judges also are very happy to actually explain to a competitor where, if they buttonhole one of them, where they can improve or where they can do better. And a lot of people have benefited from that. So very frequently people are simply content to go away with a commended or something, and they don't quite know why, if they'd done that little bit more, they could have elevated their finishing point to, say, a bronze or even higher. So it's worth talking to people when you come to a show like this, and to compare your work with theirs and to ask for hints and tips on how we all improve. The one other thing I would say to most competitors is, don't for goodness sake hide your light under a bushel. Join a club. Go to somewhere where models are being made by others, because that is the best way to improve. You can sit in your closeted home reading magazines and books written by experts, but there's nothing quite like a talk with somebody who knows what they're on about and who is not being hypercritical, but is being constructive to actually enable you to improve. Come to Euro Militaire, that's the answer, and then you'll see not only the best in the world, but you can talk to so many of the people who produce it, and they're very generous with their hints and tips. Euro Militaire is the place.
And the place to follow Geoffrey's advice was the room next door to the competition room, where various military modelling societies had their displays. All kinds of models, many of exhibition standard but not in the competition, were on show here. The major difference is that these were identified with their makers, and visitors could discuss techniques and individual models with those who actually built them. The society room is also an informal club room and gathering place, a little oasis of calm at times when other parts of the show can be a bit hectic. Although these first two groups are relatively local to Kent, others came from across the spectrum, these Tynesiders having come down from the northeast only the previous day. Further along their wall we were able to see a demonstration of airbrush techniques taking place by Rob Hendon, who will also be showing this in much greater detail in the Expert Model Craft series.
I did a demonstration of painting the flesh tone on the figure initially. I'll give you an idea of what we can do with the beard. So, you saw put it on this white primer colour, the flesh tones are established. Although the resin colour is a pale colour, I'll do it in white, which will be toned down to a grey effect.
That needs all to be cooled in there.
That's right, yeah. So what I'll probably do is just put white first. Several ways of doing it, but I think this will be the most suitable. Just getting this to flow, the paint it's not going to clog on the needle, and be able to put this onto the figure without encroaching onto the flesh colour. Seems wasteful, but it's the best way to do that, because it's better to spray some onto an old bit of cardboard or a bit of paper than to spray onto an expensive figure. Actually, with this airbrush you can go very close to the line between where the flesh begins and ends. A good thing about adding hairline with an airbrush is that if you look at anybody's hairline, unless they got severely dyed hair or badly cut hair, you won't have a sharp line between them. It'll be a gradual, it'll be tiny hairs
coming out.
That's right. So it'll look a nice gradual colour change. The idea really is to get the basic colour on without damaging what I've already done with the flesh tone. Where I've gone over a little bit where it's shadowed there, but that can be enhanced with a bit of brush work. There's never any need to panic about going over where there's any damage, because
Okay.
Things can always be gone back to
Yeah.
and improved or repaired or whatever.
Yeah.
You see, you can just get to that edge. You just take time out, not to think, right, I'm going to go and paint the best thing I've ever painted. It's all about getting used to what your limitations are as well. A lot of people just use an airbrush for armoured vehicles and things, but a lot can be done, particularly on a larger scale.
Yeah.
That white build up and brown off, is that how you do all your faces?
Not always, no. It depends on if they're white metal. Yeah, I would. But sometimes you can use that pale resin colour as a good basis for flesh tone. The only problem is that the resin tends to react with ultraviolet or natural daylight. It tends to yellow with age, and if you use the translucence of it as a base colour,
Is that just normal water?
just ordinary water. Yeah, it's not going to do any harm to the art. If you had large pieces of rust in it, or chalk or something, it would be a problem. I think anything that you can drink would be fine to go in the airbrush.
Yeah, and when the washes go in there on your oils, or as you say, you use acrylics, don't you?
Use acrylic right the way through, yeah. Good thing is you can put on, say, an enamel base colour, and do a wash using a water-based acrylic, and then you won't affect the base colour. So if anything goes wrong, you can actually go back and correct it. Either wash it off with water or...
Demonstrations took place throughout the weekend, many different crafts and styles being shown.
Queen Elizabeth this way. The Mark 1 series had the straightforward mode. Where the second version is a more rounded
KMK is a Belgian group, and their international appeal is summed up by the fact that one of their members is an Englishman with a Lithuanian name, one who would shortly become the toast of the military modelling community, one which is truly international. The way to such fame is, of course, through competition. Previously described as the lifeblood of the hobby, here we see just some of the many exquisite figurines in the first 10 competition classes. One problem with so many classes is into which category an entry should be placed. Call for Judge Jeffrey.
That in the miscellaneous, because I think there's more than one figure, so it can't be in this.
What do the judges look for?
Three parts. You have to see the construction, the sculpting story, if it's historical correct, and the painting, of course. But one from not so good is qualified. For me, it's a professional level. This.
It's not only the models that are international, and a key factor is to maintain consistency. Again, this is down to Chief Judge Geoffrey Ilsey, who briefs them on their task each year.
I say every year that we try to maintain the value of the currency of the Euro Militaire gold medal. Bear in mind that it is intended to be the highest quality that anyone could reasonably be expected to attain. Be generously parsimonious, or parsimoniously generous, or whatever, but don't be mean. I mean, if there's something that is in contention there, and if it's borderline, well, go for it, but don't give them away like sweets, is really. Now, the worst capital offence that a judge could possibly commit is partisan judging. It is a capital offence. It is doing a friend a favour. If you know that a piece you're judging happens to be done by someone you know, it's very human to be inclined in his direction, to say, oh well, let's have that. Now, a particular case in point, after the judge had put his gold medal on it, I took the gold medal off it, and I put that piece with the 3 other figures of the same piece, and we had no less than 6 other judges came along to do a blind judging. Not one of them gave the one that had got a gold medal a single, not even a bronze. And the one that was the best of them got a silver. It wasn't the one that had been awarded a gold. And I subsequently found out that the judge was thick as thieves and a great pal of the chap he'd given the gold medal to. Needless to say, that judge has never been invited back. So please do not weaken and be partial towards someone whose piece you happen to know. Judge it absolutely on a level playing field. We don't want any sort of corruption scandals infiltrating Europe. As always, best of show is chosen from amongst all of the gold medal winners, not just some, all of them. And we will shortlist them and then come up with a winner.
Following the briefing, the judges get down to finalising the medal winners. Douglas Lee is seen examining models in Class 14, which is for converted or scratch-built military vehicles. There are 4 classes for military vehicles, and some of the most elaborate models in the competition are entered in these. So many, in fact, that we've included an extra feature covering these classes on a separate part of this DVD, which can be accessed from the menu. What follows is just a small part of the total, and can be watched at leisure with long lingering close-ups and details, which are such a feature of expert modelcraft programmes. The judging starts early on the morning of the Saturday of the two-day weekend, carrying on throughout the day and then being continued on the Sunday morning. During the Saturday morning, the competition room is open to the public, but in the afternoon they are asked to leave it to enable the judges to get down to the nitty-gritty of finalising the medal winners. And it's quite a mammoth task. In 2006 there were 630 or so separate entries in 24 classes. Generally these can be grouped into types: figures 10 classes, military bus 2 classes, vehicles 4 classes, flat or engraved figures 3 classes, civilian 3 classes, fantasy 1 class and juniors 1 class. There is no individual winner in a class, as Geoffrey Ilsey explained. As many as can be justified are given. The total numbers of awards made in 2006 were 59 commended, 57 highly commended, 56 bronze, 47 silver and 41 gold. And of course one best in show chosen from the golds. This is a total of 260 awards and sums up the enormous task which confronts the judges. Perhaps the most difficult is the new fantasy class. How do you decide whether a model is accurate?
I tell you what about if we just go quickly, it's not a world word, up on the top, and then that gives us a chance to...
The final event of the weekend is the awards ceremony, which takes place in the main hall at 3 p.m. on the Sunday afternoon. The Master of Ceremonies was one of the principal show organisers, Charles Davies. Our coverage is, of necessity, brief.
Mr. David Johnson. If, like me, you are a Napoleonic fan, then the name David Johnson will be high on your list of people you would like to meet. He has written novels on military subjects as far apart as El Franco, the Spanish 12th century hero, and the First World War and the Abel Offensive. The US Army was so impressed with the book that it purchased 2,000 copies. Today, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. David Johnson, who will present the gold medals for all classes this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Johnson. Give a big thank you to the couple who you have seen throughout the hall, throughout the weekend. Mr. Alex Marsh and his wife Joan, who have dressed up especially for us this afternoon in his splendid uniform, which I might add, Alex makes all of it. Not just a bit, he makes it all. First of all, before the gold medals, we have the Sid Horton Trophy, as always. And the Sid Horton Trophy this year for juniors is won by Mr. Thomas Hopwood, aged 12. And the prize will be picked up by his friend Nathan Snelson. The Sid Horton Trophy, ladies and gentlemen. All right. This is what we need, more juniors. Right. The gold medal winners for the 2006 Militaire Class 1 painted single foot figures up to 65mm. There are 5 gold medal winners in this class, and I must say the standard was amazingly high this year. I think you must all agree. The first medal goes to Marco Formenti for Nostromo Real Marinera 1860. David Zabrocki for Templar Knight for David Ashby, SS Panzer Officer. David Ashby, his second gold medal. David Katachi of the Red Lancer Trumpeter. Tatiana Gavchenko. Last year's Best of Show winner. Marianne Bargils. Jean Ortiz, please. Calvin Tan. Gianfranco Speranza. Jean Ortiz. Diego De Luna and Victor Kolnov for The Way to Glory. Class 9, 3 gold medal winners here. Irina Vasileva for Graz 15th Century. Irina Vasileva. And the second gold medal goes to Olga Skoptsova for Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Samurai. Olga Skoptsova. And the final gold medal in Class 9 goes to Douglas Lee, Lord of Cyanica. Class 11, painted military bus up to quarter scale. There are 3 gold medals and they go to Alberto Fuentes Berni.
The second gold medal goes to our old friend Gianfranco Speranza for Young B. Song for DAK Panzer Officer. Class 13, single military vehicle kits, 3 gold medals. The first goes to Mario Eames. The second goes to Mig Jimenez for the T-34 German version of Winter. And the final gold medal in Class 13 goes to Adam Wilder for a Kruppstair Waffenträger. Converted scratch-built military vehicles, 1 gold medal, and that goes to S. McPherson for Jack Holt. Per Olaf Lund. Justu Mira for Towards the Reichstag. Vehicle vignettes, 2 gold medals. The first goes to Philip Stochinkas for Panzer IV Viking Division. And the second gold medal goes to Alan Wilder for a NATO wheel loader Iraq. Gianfranco Speranza for Casanova, which is the converted scratch-built single civilian, and there is 1 gold medal here, and that goes to Marianne Van Gils for The Great Escape. So Class 23, the fantasy class, the first goes to Jeremy Bonamant for Landsknecht Uga, Dave Maddox for Yari. And the final gold medal this year goes to Class 24, the junior display models. The gold medal winner in this is Thomas Hopwood for Satire. Thomas Hopwood, the junior. We've come to the moment that I take great pleasure in every year, which I've written about a number of times, of saying those famous words. Well, those famous words are, the best of show winner for Euro Militaire 2006 goes to a Class 16 military vehicle.
The Best in Show award was presented by the Managing Director of Dragon Models.
And it was modelled by Philip Stochinkas. Best of Show 2006 Euro Militaire, Philip Stochinkas. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps it for another year. I look forward to seeing you all again next year, same place, same time, and I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. We did, and I hope the traders have also. Goodbye, and God bless you, and safe journey home.
Like other modellers, we wanted to speak to the man who created the Best in Show. We asked Philip Stochinkas if he would describe his techniques and the background as to how and why he came to create his prize-winning model. But first, with a name like that, where does he come from?
I'm from Stoke in England, Stoke-on-Trent. My surname originates in Lithuania. That was my grandfather. But the Belgian, I have a lot of good friends in Belgium, and Europe is a small place now, so we travel across and they come over here, and it's all been one big happy family.
You could hardly get more international. Philip is the perfect winner of an international award. What about the model?
It's a Tamiya model that everyone can buy at your local model shop, but what you do is you find a picture or a story that's of interest to you, and then you change the model and you modify it, and it's quite a lot of work to get the model correct. This particular model is based on a real tank commanded by a real guy in a real theatre of war, and to just take the story. The actual model started off as a letter from the actual commander. He was telling a story about his time in Hungary with this unit. He sent a letter to my friend Mirko Bayer, and Mirko shared the letter with me, and I made the model.
And the rest, as they say, is history. See you next year. Compendium Films is delighted to announce a new series of programmes in which some of the world's best military modellers share the secrets of their techniques, expert modelcraft. Military modelling is an international hobby whose adherents seek perfection in every detail. Until now, the principal ways for them to learn their craft have been through the printed word, at exhibitions or on the internet. Now in each expert modelcraft you can have a one-to-one tutorial and learn how the masters create their award-winning models. Compendium Films has assembled an unparalleled cast of military modellers who will share their techniques, skills and shortcuts with their fellow hobbyists, so that maybe you will become a future winner of a gold award at an international exhibition such as Militaire, where the models seen here were displayed in 2006. The series presenter is Richard Windrow, well known in the hobby as an author for his modelling skills and as the organiser of the annual Militaire show. Here he is, illustrating the new series with an expert guide to a difficult modelling technique, that of modelling terrain.
My name is Richard Windrow and I've been modelling for some 30 or 40 years, mainly the military aspect of the 20th century, First World War, Second World War and Vietnam. And my particular interest in that field, as well as building the model itself, is the terrain. Many modellers spend ages creating the perfect tank or the perfect plane or the perfect figure, and then the final result is let down by a poor or unimaginative setting. In this episode of this series we're going to concentrate on terrain and getting the best background that you can. For example, take this M3 half-track model. This is a conversion from the basic Tamiya M3 half-track, but this model isn't really complete because it has no setting. It is sitting on a technical board. It has no life to it. Later in the series we can be looking at construction techniques, scratch building and detailing. And now we have a whole model, because you can see where in real life this vehicle would have been used on a mountain track to fire across valleys. The principle of placing the model in its correct background applies to any period of history, any model, whether it be a vehicle or a figure. Now what I'd like to do is to show you a vignette I've made some years ago and to cover one or two of the particular problems that terrain modellers have. And in this instance it's snow and ice and the use in a model. Now if we look at this vignette in a little more detail, the first thing that I've tried to achieve is to make sure the vegetation would be the type of vegetation one would find in Northern Europe in AD 406. The silver birches certainly grew throughout Scandinavia and Germany. Bracken again throughout the whole of the region. The hollow tree is made from just a length of balsa wood dowel that I've then hollowed out with a Dremel power tool. The reeds are bristles from brushes, and of course we then move on. We've got the snow, trampled snow, the ice and the further rime of frost around the edge here, and this is what we're going to look at in considerably more detail and go through how to recreate this effect on a diorama. To create the best effect for deep water under a coating of ice, you really need to use a black base on which to build your river, your pond, your lake. And in this instance this is just some board, scraper board. First thing we're going to do is to create the effect of air bubbles under the ice, which I'm sure you've noticed yourselves when you've been on frozen bodies of water or if you've been skating on lakes that it isn't a nice, even, smooth, white surface. It is darker and lighter in different spots, and this is mostly created by air bubbles trapped under the ice. And to do that I use a perfectly ordinary candle. Once it has burnt down to the wax itself, start to let it drip. Don't try and make a regular pattern, get different shapes. Now, to create your ice surface, I always use perfectly simple perspex. Not a thick sheet, as you can see, don't need to be. This one is a pre-frosted one. It's smooth on this side, but slightly frosted on this side, so that it does give the effect of ice. If you can't get this, just use ordinary perspex like this. And to create the frosting effect, get some of this glass etch. You need to do this from a distance, but if you get too close it starts to run too much. Just let that dry. So now we're going to apply the ice to the base work, and I shall glue this down. This is ordinary PVA Scenic cement from Woodland Scenics. Woodland Scenics glue, when it dries, goes transparent, and it also dries matte. We place the ice on top, and that will also, when you squidge it down, will also make some interesting effects under the ice. Now in this instance you need to imagine that this is the front of your diorama or your vignette, and back here you'll be building up your groundwork. Groundwork you can make using a piece of ordinary polystyrene ceiling tile. The shape of this small piece of polystyrene I created using what they call a hot knife. It is much better if you can use one of these for cutting polystyrene. You don't get polystyrene beads and little fractured pieces all over the place as you do when you try and cut polystyrene with a knife. This, as you can see, seals the edge as it cuts, so that you can create shapes without creating a hell of a lot of mess. So I'm just using the ordinary glue once again on the back of the polystyrene, and then place it over there and let it set. When the glue has set under your small piece of groundwork here, we're going to then cover it with a thin coating of plaster. Now this particular plaster I prefer at all times. If you want thick snow, this is ideal because you can mix it to the consistency of porridge and just literally pour it, but it won't flow. It'll just form nice thick bulges with the smooth surface that you get in heavy snowfalls. The other advantage of this is the fact that it doesn't yellow. It also, this particular one, sets very hard and doesn't crack. Although it is a German product, it is readily available. Now I'm using an old oil painter's palette knife because it's ideal for spreading terrain rather than using a brush, which you find it very difficult to prevent brush marks appearing in the snow, whereas the palette knife will give you a nice smooth consistency. And in a minute, when we've got the first layer on, I then wet the knife and keep working over the snow, and after all you are trying to create a natural looking piece of terrain, not something that's beautifully organised like an 18th century formal garden. Nature is pretty untidy most of the time. A bit of water. That has created the base work for your land. This is an American product for creating snow. It's drifted down onto the ice itself and then on the land. If you had been putting footmarks, hoof prints, etc. in this, they've got to be done before you do this, because then you're going to put a light dusting of it over the footprint. One other point worth making is that to save material on your groundwork, and so that you can just have a thin skin over the finished model, is to make the bulk of the land out of cheap polystyrene, piece of wood, bit of balsa, anything, just to bulk up and give you the basic shape of your landwork before you start laying on the groundwork.
Programmes in Compendium Films' new series will follow this format, showing the real nuts and bolts of all kinds of modelling techniques and skills. Forthcoming modellers' masterclasses and an international cast of experts to appear in them will be Geoffrey Ilsley and Rob Hendon, both of whom are seen at Euro Militaire 2006, are our airbrushing experts and will appear in the series. Geoffrey was the chief judge and gives us a few hints as to what makes a great model.
In fact, the use of an airbrush with various techniques using oil paints is the easiest form of painting, particularly with flesh tones and complex shading techniques that has ever been invented, I think, for the use of a figure model. You're going to be totally surprised the moment you've mastered the controls of an airbrush what you can do with it.
Rob Hendon was demonstrating airbrush techniques at the same event.
The idea really is to get the basic colour on without damaging what I've already done with the flesh tone. Where I've gone over a little bit where it's shadow there, but that can be enhanced with a bit of brushwork. So it's not going to worry too much about it, but there's never any need to panic about going over where there's any damage, because things can always be gone back to and improved or repaired or whatever. You see, you can just get to that edge. If you just take time out, not to think, right, I'm going to go and paint the best thing I've ever painted. And
that's not going to happen.
You need a bit of patience just to get used to the equipment.
Practice,
Using the power of the whole world of military modelling experts, the Modellers Masterclass series is set to be the standard bearer of excellence and progress in military modelling for the future. Watch them on DVD from Compendium Films.